All right, now we have our daily dose of Sunday with Timber, which I know I look forward to, and I know many of you do too. So take it away, Timber.
Thank you. Um, I was thinking about the reading from earlier today with the piece about Thich Nhat Hanh and the invitation to smile and why we smile. And so it got me thinking about, why do we get together on Sundays? Why do we have these conversations? Why the music? Why the coming together? And it's an opportunity to elaborate, because Thich Nhat Hanh didn't just say smile. He explained why we smile. What are the benefits of smiling? What can we learn about ourselves? How does our relationship to the world change when we smile? And tying that into what Brian said earlier today, that our experience of the world is, remind me again, Brian, is exactly the words for
Create
the
our
affirmation.
experiences through our way of thinking.
Our way of thinking, yes. So our experiences through our way of thinking, and it's also through our way of understanding. And that, I think, is the real power behind elaborating. And this came up for me in my personal life earlier this week in a couple of different ways. And why, annoying as it may be, when someone asks me a yes or no question, I give them a 20-minute answer, and why I feel the need to elaborate. For instance, when someone says thank you, I'm that annoying person who says, what are you thanking me for? Like, can you break it down? Like, what is it you're actually grateful for? And it may be an opportunity for them, because like the spiritual life doesn't make life any longer, but it does make it deeper. And I see many opportunities for us to deepen our experience. So when they say, thank you for bringing, the salad for our potluck, can you elaborate on that? Well, thank you for not just getting one at the store, for example, or thank you for the trouble you went through dicing the ginger into little matchsticks, or just recognizing, elaborating on when we say thank you, what are we grateful for? Thank you for taking my allergens into consideration when making the salad dressing and not using soy sauce, for example, if someone is allergic to soy sauce, things like that, to just take that extra step to elaborate when we say thank you. Or more importantly, and this came up so many times in my life, and it's one of my pet peeves, when someone says they're sorry, and I'm like, what are you sorry for? Everything. I'm sorry for everything. I'm like, that leaves so much on the table. That leaves so much for interpretation. And I'm hard pressed to question whether, is that a real apology, because you didn't own up to any behavior that you now have remorse toward. It's just a blanket statement. It's a cop out. It's not an opportunity to say, here's what I did that I now regret having done, that I've learned is not how I want to be, and here's my promise to try my best not to repeat that behavior. That's an apology. Saying I'm sorry for everything doesn't elaborate enough. It doesn't increase our connection to one another. It doesn't deepen our understanding of the situation. So Sundays for me, and maybe for all of us, is an opportunity beyond saying, oh, I have faith. It's beyond saying I believe in God. It's, here is my opportunity to elaborate what I mean when I say I'm Christian, I'm Buddhist, I'm Jewish, I'm spiritual. Here's what that means for me. And it doesn't end on Sunday. Does my faith in God show through my actions, through my words throughout the week? And Sunday is an opportunity for us to remember, to elaborate, to go, here's one more way that our faith can present itself in the world. Here's one more way I can be the message. It's not just in our experience, it's in our understanding, and it's in our way of explaining I'm using this opportunity today for us to elaborate on what it means to elaborate, to break it down. Now, in recovery circles, for example, there is the invitation when someone says, I want a drink, let's say in the drink beverage program with AA, when someone, okay, well, you want the drink. What is it that you really want? What is it? Break it down for me. What are you trying to accomplish? And as we peel back the layers, it's often escapism or numbing or any, it's just a way, it's an opportunity for me to not look at something else that's going on. And then it's broken down if the person calls their sponsor, walk me through the drink. Okay, so you have a drink, then what? Then what? And what's the next step? What's the next step? Well, then I have 6. Okay, what's the next step? Then I'm probably going to do something really irresponsible, like driving while intoxicated. And then what? Then I may crash the car, or worse yet, I may crash it into someone and cause someone else harm. Walk me through. So these are I'm just giving you examples of the beauty of elaborating instead of getting into the automated, I love you. What do you mean when you say I love you? Can you break that down for me? Can you tell me what you mean when you say I love you to me? What does it mean for you? Because I can tell you what it means when I hear it, and I can break that down. And it really depends on when you say it, because sometimes you say it and this is what I hear. And sometimes you say it and I hear something completely different. Sometimes I think you're just saying it to shut me up. So like, here is an opportunity for us to elaborate. Okay, I'm worried. What does that mean? How does that reconcile with me also simultaneously believing in God? Can I do both simultaneously? Walk me through what worried means. And I think if we walk through the drink, if we talk through the worry, if we elaborate enough, I'm inclined to say we will find God in all of it. And so we sometimes miss opportunities to make that connection with the Buddha within, or with the God, or whatever you're comfortable with, because we're on autopilot. We're not just with our actions, but many times with our words. So yeah, I'm annoying, and I turn a yes/no question into a 20-minute conversation. I think it's annoying at first, but I see the benefit of it later on. And I may have mentioned to you guys, last year I stayed for 2 months with a good friend on the Big Island who is a big student of nonviolent communication, NVC. And one day we're sitting down and she says, how are you feeling? I'm like, good. And she just shakes her head and she goes, Timber, good is not a feeling. Can you elaborate? Can you tell me more? And I was stumped. And she gave me a list, literally a list, thousands of feelings. And she goes, go down the list and tell me what you're feeling. And I was like, wow, okay, prompts and everything. And I was able to go through it and say, I feel accomplished because we got a lot done today. I feel excited because we still have the rest of the day and beautiful weather to go with it. I feel extremely grateful for being here with you, for this opportunity. I feel, and I went down the list of everything. And she goes, now, isn't that richer than I'm good? And she had a point. This took more effort. This took more time. But I don't think it was time wasted or even spent. It was time invested. We were investing in each other. We were investing in closer self-reflection on what is it that I'm actually feeling. I felt grateful for a good night of sleep. So I felt well rested. I was literally going down this list. And with nonviolent communication, every feeling either expresses a met need or an unmet need. And so it wasn't just enough to say, I feel good. It's, what do you mean by that? And what does that mean? So if I feel relaxed and I feel very much alive and awake, well, that means I'm well rested. I'm grateful for the good night of sleep. You know what I mean? So I can do this for hours, but you get the idea of the beauty of looking at all the layers as the lotus flower opens up, and just looking at just everything that was involved in getting that flower to open up. And like many of us, I try to connect to my faith, to God, to my practice, to bring it into everything I do every day. It's why Thich Nhat Hanh didn't just say, smile, because I said so. It's smile because there are benefits. It changes your experience. It opens your heart. There's so, and not just because you're happy. In fact, it's probably more important to do that when you're not. But if you've practiced it when you were neutral or happy, you will have easier access to it when you're not, when you really need it. That is why we exercise our faith. That's why we talk about our faith. That's why we talk about our practice. Not to make Sunday great, but to make the rest of the week great, if that makes sense. So of course, as you know me, I would love for this to be more of a discussion than a talk. I would love to hear how this shows up in Brian's life, if no one else's. But the thing that comes to mind was a talk that Julia Sweeney once gave, where she was home in LA and a couple of Mormon missionaries knocked on her door. And they asked her if she believes that God loves her with all of his heart. And she had a really hard time with that, because she didn't know how to answer that question. Now, if they had asked her, do you feel that God loves you with all his heart? She goes, that would have been a completely different, and I would have had no problem answering. She goes, yes, I feel God's love all the time. I feel God's love when I'm hurt and I'm confused, and I feel consoled and cared for. She goes, I take shelter in God's love when I don't understand why tragedy hits. And I feel God's love when I look with gratitude at all the beauty that I see. But since they asked the question with the word believe in it, somehow it was all different, because she wasn't exactly sure if she believed what she so clearly felt. And that felt really heavy to me, really important to elaborate on that, to distinguish between the two, and have a, dare I say, a better understanding of not of faith, but of our faith. Like, for each of us to get off this call when we're done and then ask ourselves, what does my faith look like to me? What does it look like to others? How do I express it? How do I feel it? How do I incorporate it? Where do I feel very connected to it? And where does it slip through my fingers? So the idea, again, of elaborating, when you say thank you, when you say I'm sorry, when you say I love you, when you say you believe in God, pretend I'm there asking you, can you tell me more about that? And get in touch with your faith beyond our Sunday meetings. Does that make sense? Brian, do you know how difficult this is for me when I'm not in the room with you guys, making eye contact and having conversation? But
Yeah,
am I
relate
making
to that.
sense, or am I babbling on?
Yeah, no. It makes sense to me. I was an NVC practitioner for the whole time that I was at Unity Village. In fact, it's part of our ministerial program that we learn NVC, and so I totally get that. And elaborating is such a pain in the butt. It takes effort, and that's sometimes. I love what you said about that. If we take the opportunity to do that, we'll find God in everything. And that to me really just says so much, that the depth of the experience that we can have is so much more, it's so much more, it's open to us if we're willing to make a little bit of effort. And so, NVC is described as a literacy of feelings and needs. That so there are all these lists of feelings and lists of needs. But anyway, so I want to also just say I love that you said that we're here on Sundays to make the rest of the week great. That has a great deal of meaning for me, and that's a message that I hope everybody takes to heart to make the rest of the week great. Or
yeah, because we don't need to meet every single day. I mean, that would be a pain in the butt, like you said, but it's worth it for us to glean something from our gatherings and then incorporate that into our everyday. And when we run low, well, look at it. It's Sunday. We get to replenish, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So it's worth it. I think it's the pain that you're experiencing. I see it as growing pains. We grow in our faith. We grow in our togetherness. We grow in our unity. That, I mean, I associate growth with pain, but pain is our greatest lesson. So I know we are hardwired as humans to avoid pain and discomfort, but that's the animal part of us. Then there's the cerebral part of us, the intellectual part of us, that I think we need to seek some discomfort in elaborating, even if it's painful, because ultimately it's an investment in us. And if you believe that God resides within you, well, then why wouldn't you? Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense to me. And so I'd like to reframe what I said, not pain, but effort. It does take effort. And that's part of what life is about. The way that I see it is that we have such a rich opportunity to grow and to using the metaphor that you used earlier about the lotus blossoming, that we're all blossoming, becoming the fullest expression of love and the divine that we can possibly be. And making the effort to elaborate is probably, or it is, part of the effort to fully be an expression of who we are. To bring,
and the opposite is true. So if we're not making the effort, we are not living to the full extent of our potential. We are leaving some of God on the table. Does that?
No, that makes sense. And particularly when again, as you referred to earlier, we're doing some of these distractions, no matter what it is. We're instead of being willing to make the effort and go to the depths, we're being distracted by something. And there are, especially in our culture, an infinite number. So
and so while God is in the details, but I think the devil's in the details too. So it's just like we need to read the fine print, and that's a pain, and that takes effort. But again, it's an investment in us, and perhaps we need to start with acknowledging our self-worth, that we are worth the effort. Yes. Many times when we don't make the effort, we feel like, well, why would God show up in my life? I'm not a messenger of God. And like, we are all messengers of God. We are all representations of God. So what representation do you want to be in the world? And that's a huge calling. And I think embracing it, celebrating it, not to preach from the mountaintops, not to say a word, to let our actions convey our faith is I think a beautiful way to connect and reconnect and reaffirm for ourselves, for others, to be as Christ-like as we can, as Buddha-like as we dare. I look at the definitions of words by looking at their opposites. And so the opposite of effort is maybe laziness. And so what I'm saying in a not so gentle way is, don't be lazy with your faith. Don't be lazy with your practice.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hear about their bad habits. In fact, they want to hear good news about their bad habits. And that's not what I'm about. In theory, if I do my job right, everyone goes home feeling a little uncomfortable, but in a good way, in that it's a little outside their comfort zone. And it's an invitation to look and go, where my teacher said, you're all perfect and you can all use a little improvement.
Mhm.
And I think we can all look and go, where can I file down some of my rough edges?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that gives us
um,
an opportunity to, as we move into the week, to think about, what opportunities do I have to grow this week? How can I elaborate so that I can find God in everything? And how
yeah,
can I kind of switch the channel from the diversion into really being present and really being connected? And feeling the juice behind that, because it's really it makes life so much richer.
yeah. Like saying, how you feeling? Good. It's like, okay, can you tell
Yeah,
me more?
yeah,
And then it's richer. It's the same experience, but it's so much deeper and richer. And I felt more connected to me, more connected to her. And it may take effort at first,
yes,
but I think it does become part of our habit, part of our personality, part of our way we engage with others. And people are actually, I'm finding, very appreciative of that. I mean, here right now, you and I are doing something that is unconventional for quote unquote Sunday. I invited you into, let's have a
yeah,
conversation about this. And the one comment I'm reading is that this is well received, that,
yes,
that this dialogue, because we've taken different paths up the same mountain, and then was like, hey, and then we acknowledge each other on the path. And then I asked you, Brian, what does faith look like on has looked like on in your backpack? And you're like, what are you carrying?
mhm,
And then we just keep doing. And I think there's so much to learn and to acknowledge, and not to minimize, oh, you took the hard path or you took the easy path, or we're each on a path. It's not about judging one
mhm,
another. It's just fascinating to me that God is everywhere. And if we look for her, we'll see her. And if we look for the devil, we'll see him too. So perception and understanding changes our experience 100%. I just wanted to tie that back into the theme this
yeah,
week, and
yeah,
to the reading. Smiling changes how we walk in meditation,
amen.
because you can do walking meditation with a huge frown on your face, and that's going to change your experience. The 20 minutes is the same 20 minutes, but your experience of those 20 minutes is going to be completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for inviting me to be the spiritual 2x4, so to speak, and knock people into taking this week, um, today, beyond the Zoom call, to experiment with elaborating just in your own personal life when you talk to yourself. And I know you all do, whether it's out loud or not. And when you talk to others, elaborate, investigate, just peel back the layers. And there's so much beauty in, I was reading, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, by Thich Nhat Hanh about death. And he's like, there is no death and there's no birth. It's, when you look at a glass of water, see the cloud, see the, from which, the rain came to like, just see all of it, and how it's all of it. And then the water is going to turn into grass, and then the grass is going to feed the cow, and then the cow, it never ends. And so I like thinking through things to elaborate. And then the fear of death dissipates, the fear of everything we're worried about goes away. It's like saying, thank you, God, for the responsibilities you gave me. And oops, I took too much. I'm going to give some of those back to you, because I don't need to worry about this. I'm going to leave this to God. And this idea of walking together with God side by side is so inviting to me, because then God feels more personal. She feels like a passenger on my path, not someone I'm trying to impress, not someone I'm trying to win over, um, but a companion. Uh, what a great companion to have with us, I think.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you, Timber. Enjoyed it. It reminds me of one of the things we learned in ministerial school, that the purpose of a minister, speaker, is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So
Oh, that is brilliant. I need to I need to write that down. I know you said you don't want it's the spoken word, not the written word, but to
Yeah,
comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Thank you.
You bet. So anyway, so great job. Appreciate it. I always can count on that from you. All right, more music.